Hey everybody, 𝐏𝐿DB here. We recorded this podcast about a month ago, and I really should have uploaded it about 3 weeks ago at the very least, and I didn't. I've been really busy with work, and sometimes depression and anxiety will trick you into not being able to accomplish basic tasks under stupid bullshit reasons like, oh, what I need to do this first, or I want it to be this way. Sorry about that. To sort of make up for it, here's a little meme about symptom management. I think that maybe if you're watching the video version of this podcast, you might understand this is sort of what happened to me. I wanted to have a new intro song for the podcast, or I wanted to have the newest Elden Ring episode out in time for the podcast, when in reality, should have just put out the fucking podcast. So, sorry about that. It's a pretty 𝐏𝐿DB thing to do. And thanks a lot for listening. Chase really killed it on this one, and I'm sorry it took so long.
Hello and welcome back to the Bro Up whatever podcast that we do very rarely, but it's the Club F Radio back on station. Here we go. That was your cue.
I was about to say, did you just take a big swig of a drink?
Yeah, he's taking a page out of Bert Kreischer's handbook and down in a gallon of Kool-Aid a day.
I'm so glad that picked up because I didn't actually mean for it to. I didn't realize there was like nothing left in this drink. But no, real talk. Welcome back. We haven't been here in a long time because we just got super behind and kind of stopped doing it. But it's been like close to a year, I think. The last one was in June. Really? Yeah. I mean,
I haven't kept up.
I say close. You know, it's still several months away. 3 more months, but still, we're very, very close to coming up on a year not having had one. So we were going to stream Elden Ring today, but we decided to fuck around and do this podcast instead.
And, you know, we've been kind of overdue on it because it's become part of my natural thought process to be like, I can't wait to talk about that on the podcast. But then I'll just be like, right, we haven't done one in a while. We may not even have a podcast on this topic.
Yeah, literally the last one we did was E3, and now that's canceled.
Wait, the last one we did was last E3?
Yeah, that was the last one we did.
So today was years old when I found out that they've made the difficult decision to stop supporting the Twitch desktop app on April the 30th.
Oh, really? So there's not a Twitch desktop app anymore?
April the 30th there won't be.
Oh, okay, so it will be phased out. Well, that's kind of unsurprising because, like, I was using the Twitch desktop app there for a while so that I could easily differentiate between using BroOp's profile and using 𝐏𝐿DB's profile, which now there's no point. Chrome has like a very easy profile switcher thing now, but the Twitch app was like a huge pain in the ass, so fuck it entirely. That said, glad you guys are joining us. We do live stream this podcast on Twitch whenever we're actually recording it, so if you missed it and ever want to watch it live, keep that in mind. So typically the way that we do this is Super64 is sort of our master of ceremonies, and he tells us what the topic is. We started doing that because it has resulted in a lot more genuine conversation, in my opinion. I really like doing it like this. So Chase, what's the topic today?
Yeah, well, I was just going to agree with you. I like doing it this way too, because that doesn't give you guys time to like really think or research anything. It gives me more, or it gives the viewers more of your immediate thoughts on it. So
yeah,
I kind of prefer that. But before we get into like the main topic, I thought we'd just catch up on shit we've been doing since it's been so long. But yeah, so what have you guys been up to lately?
Okay, yeah, let's just let's go around. I'll start us off. I feel like this is a good opportunity for me to also provide a state of the channel update for anybody that didn't watch the other video. I had a lot of creative burnout at the beginning of the year. That's why it's been so long for the next episode to come out. And so I just took that time to really focus on myself, take care of myself. I got diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactive disorder. The guy who gave me the test said it's the worst he's ever seen.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he said I failed it hard. like he was like, the way he phrased it was actually kind of unprofessional.
Yeah, that's kind of a dick way to say that.
Because he was like, yeah, you made loads of careless mistakes here. And I wanted to be like, you know, I came to you to find out what was wrong with me, right? Like, they're not careless. Like, I clearly tried.
It's like the Obi-Wan meme. I think it's Obi-Wan where he's like, yes, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. So when I have a psychiatrist now, which is I think a weird thing to say to the general public because of the stigma that we have, but she doesn't really talk to me about my problems. She talks to me about what medicine I need for my brain. And I told her about that, and she laughed, and she's like, yeah, it's just sort of a language problem. The words we use don't mean the same thing in general context. And so, goddamn fucking Shaq over here in the Twitch chat, stigma ball. But yeah, she's been great. I have 2 different types of ADHD medicine now. One I take in the morning that's a slow burn, and one I take whenever I need a boost. So I am completely off energy drinks now. So I'm less worried I'm going to pass a fucking spike ball out of my wee-wee. So that's a good thing. And yeah, I've just been continuing to work at Nexus, continuing to try to help that platform take off and improve, and we've made a lot of really cool deals with different developers and publishers. I've been the one that helps make those pitch presentations. That's been exciting, and answering support tickets every day. So any of you who are ever skittish about supporting us on Nexus for any reason, keep in mind I'm literally the guy who answers the support tickets. So you're gonna have somebody reasonable at the other end of the line. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if he won't ever answer you on Discord, now you know how to get hold of him.
Hey, he's not wrong. But yeah, in terms of what I've been doing unprofessionally, I've been wasting an enormous time playing Elden Ring because I really fucking enjoy it. Been playing that a lot, and that's me.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the majority of what we've been doing lately. But yeah, I've been doing the same thing, just fucking hacking away at Elden Ring. I'm like 70 or so hours into it now. I'm at the very ass end of it. I could go finish the game right now, but there's still some trophy bosses I need to go kill that I don't want to wait until New Game Plus to do. So
right.
I can't just go finish it yet, but I should maybe get that grinded out this week, I hope. But I'm gonna try not to talk about Elden Ring too much right now because I do want to talk about it a little bit later.
Yeah.
Me and William have played a lot of disc golf in the past year or so since we had our last podcast. We've gotten pretty into it. We played today, actually. We just got back from playing. Took us about 4 hours. Played 2 rounds. I played like absolute doo-doo poop shit today. But that's how it goes. You have a good game and you have a horrible game. Or at least that's how mine go.
Real quick, I want to interrupt to thank whoever just bought a Continue coin. That's how we're currently accepting financial support, and we appreciate you for giving $3.10 directly to us instead of giving us $2.50 out of $5 and the other $2.50 to Twitch. Really appreciate that. Anyway, go ahead.
That's pretty much all for me, William. What you been up to, buddy?
Working.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, I've mostly been working. I recently completely platted Elden Ring, so it's off my agenda because Chase doesn't have any PS Plus time, so we can't play it together. And now I'm moving on to other pastures like Final Fantasy VII Remake because I'm close to the end of it, but I never actually played Intergrade, and I've had it for damn near a year now, and I feel like that's necessary. Let's see. Outside of that, I've also been playing disc golf, as he said. Played today twice. I did not play like doo-doo ass water. I've been fairly consistent lately, so that's naturally all going to fall apart soon.
We can only hope.
Well, jeez. I still haven't beaten Nick yet, so
Well, he's been
a thorn in my side.
Yeah, he doesn't play with us all the time, though. I feel like if he played with us as much as James or Scott, then you might have had your chance by now.
Maybe. So I beat both of them. Although I'm still not going to count it on Scott until he's fully recovered. If he does fully recover.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Glad to hear it. And as for the rest of you guys, we're glad to be back. I think that the podcast is a good way for us to also deliver you updates on the channel. So if you missed our other video explaining that and how all that works, I've got it pulled up now. This is our Nexus page. Nexus is a website that I actually work for as an employee and as an affiliate. So this is how BroOp is supporting themselves, but it's also how I'm supporting myself IRL. So if BroOp succeeds, Nexus succeeds, I succeed, vice versa.
Hashtag dipping.
Apparently it's called dog fooding, which means...
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a term for it.
I don't like the sound of that near as much as double.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Basically, okay, so I had never heard of this term until everybody at work started thanking me for dog fooding. And I was like, huh. And I think it's like, it's implying you work at a company that makes dog food and you're eating the dog food to make sure the dog food's good. Like,
that's gross.
That's a really weird term.
At least we don't make dog food. And I've had to remind them every time, I actually care about my channel, right? Like, this isn't just me trying to suck up to y'all. Like, I actually want to make money for me as well as for you. so basically, like, I keep being like, hey, there's this weird gradient glitch, and they're just like, yeah, we haven't noticed that because not enough people are using the platform yet. So like, it's a good opportunity for us to fix those things that people don't always complain about. Like we've mentioned before, like if the audio is wrong on a Twitch stream, you won't necessarily stay to help them troubleshoot it. You might just leave. And the same goes for Nexus. If something's not the way you want it, then you might just not fuck with it instead of giving them feedback. So
yeah, see, when you said dog food, the first thing that popped into my mind was, man, dogs vomit and then eat their vomit, and that just, it all went downhill from there.
Anyway, buy stuff on Nexus.
I'm just imagining.
That only got worse because over here in the chat, Diesel says sounds like a fucked up sex movie you'd find on Urban Dictionary. So yeah,
it does. It really does. But I'm just imagining when they said that, if you were like in a meeting or however the fuck that went down, they're just like, yeah, thanks for dog food, and then you're just furiously Googling, what the fuck did he just call me?
Yeah, it was
Jesus.
weird.
Yeah, I don't.
Having said that, I have eaten a dog biscuit before when I was really young.
I know there are some dog treats that are designed to look like real food, like cookies and stuff like that, because that's exactly how you sell dog food. You have to make it look appealing to humans. And some of the ones that I've tasted have just tasted like a fucking cookie that doesn't really have a whole lot of flavor in it. Like the end,
Yeah, the one I had tasted almost just like beef jerky.
That's not so bad.
At least that's how my 9-year-old brain conceived it. I might have just fucked up that memory on purpose. Who knows? I'm weird.
You do that often? You sabotage your own brain?
I have so many mental blocks from when I was like 9 and younger that there's a lot of my childhood I just don't remember.
It's I'll be honest, I can kind of relate.
A therapist would love me.
Well, that's something I've actually thought about recently. Like I'll sit out on my porch and I'll smoke and get to thinking about stuff. And one of the things I've recently been thinking about is memories. And I'm just like, I'll think back to a part of my life and be like, man, I used to really remember a lot of that particular age. And now I look back and I only really remember the big highlights and the rest of it's a blur.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I guess that's just part of getting older. Like you're getting new memories, and it kind of, makes others hazy because they were so long ago, whatever. But I was just like, it's so weird to have that experience in like real time, if that makes sense. Like me actually sitting down and noticing it. Like, hey, I can't really remember a whole lot of 5th grade now. Like,
yeah, I mean, I get that. I completely understand that.
I remember 5th grade pretty vividly.
Some of what I've lost, I'm thankful for, because I think as a consequence of whatever the fuck's wrong with me, I would dwell too long on those uncomfortable memories, and people would be like, man, don't think about that. Don't worry about that. Forget that. And I'd just be like, what button is that? Like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, how do I just not think about that? And it comes to find out that's a little thing called obsessive compulsive disorder, and I may not have it, but I have similar symptoms.
Yeah. Well, like I was telling, I forgot who I was telling this, but anyway, I was just explaining to them how much of a fuck I don't give about things anymore, and how much easier that has just made my life in most regards. Because like I don't give a fuck what people think about me anymore, and it's just great. Like I just don't care, and it's just not something I have to worry with or have her focus on anymore and stuff.
I mean, I'm incredibly proud and happy for you. I will say, this reminds me of a moment we had growing up when I told you about some of my problems, and you were like, that really surprises me. You don't strike me as the kind of person who really cares what people think of you. And I am ready to say the exact same thing back to you. If you've had some recent breakthrough, it has been invisible to me because I didn't think you ever gave a shit.
Well, I kind of haven't, but like lately it's I feel like it's expanded into other territory, if that makes any sense. Like it does. I don't know how to explain it to you like vividly, but it's just like, man, I really like if you thought I didn't care before, holy shit. Like I do not give a fuck now.
I am just imagining like high school or college age Chase just being like, that was only a percentage of my power.
Yeah.
And this is to give even less of a fuck.
All throughout high school, I just didn't want to be bothered by anybody, so I didn't say much. I still generally do that. That's why I'm largely, unless you catch me when I'm hyper, I'm largely the quietest person in the streams.
Yeah.
And
well, I think
probably will be throughout most of this, but still.
I think you and I, William, are probably similar in that we've had trauma where we opened our mouths to say something we thought was going to be poignant or funny or interesting, only to find that we should have never been born.
Well, it's not really that for me. For me, it's that my sister talked a lot when I was a kid, so I never felt the need to say much unless it was very important.
Yeah, sounds like you didn't get to speak up enough when you wanted to.
It's not really even that. I just didn't want to.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Like, I just largely prefer to listen than speak.
I was a lot like that in my younger years too. Like I never really chose to lead. I was always a follower, basically, if you want to look at it that way. But nowadays, I feel like I joked with Scott about this a few weeks ago. Me and him were hanging out, and I was just like, dude, if there was I was like, tell me if you feel this way. But I was like, if there were like some weird apocalypse type situation that happened, I feel like me or you would be the leader of the village. And he was like, dude, I've thought about this and it's the same. Because I joke that I'm like the dad of the group because typically the people I hang out with won't speak up for themselves or anything like that. So I will do it for them, or I put together all of our plans most of the time, you know.
So if Katie.
Yeah, if it's something like this disc golf tournament coming up, you know, that's William's territory. That's kind of what he's heading that one. But as far as like our trips and like anything like that, taking up money, what we do when we're out, like I feel like I'm always at the head of it most of the time. I try to give people their chance to pick, and they just fuck around until I'm just like, all right, we're going here, or you know, we're doing this.
Can relate. Absolutely. It can be very difficult to get like any sort of group project done as an adult. Like I guess I only bother to say as an adult because I think as kids we assumed it would come more naturally to us, and then you try to do something as simple as order a pizza as a grown up and you're just like, I'm gonna go tell the teacher you don't deserve credit because this was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. And I also imagine that my career has had a lot to do with that, working in like a school where I didn't have an option but to talk to like certain parents sometimes. Thank God I don't deal with kids no more because fuck kids. I hate them. Whereas used to, I would get nervous if I had to like make a phone call. I'm sure everyone's been there. Like if you call, if you were to have to call to make a doctor's appointment or something like that, that used to be, I used to have to like sit down and psych myself up to call. And now I just call and I'm just like, you know, I just get on the phone. I'm just like, hey, whatever. Like I had to call the vet the other day and I was just like, listen, I need an appointment for my cat, blah, blah, blah. Went through it and nothing, like it was nothing. I don't think about that shit anymore because I don't know how else to put this. I've just had to grow up. Like, you know, I have to get up in front of people and talk. And I've had to teach classes about technology at schools and shit. So, like, I don't have a problem getting up in front of people and talking anymore.
I think for our generation, that's actually a huge benchmark of growing up. Like, just something as simple as the being able to make phone calls for yourself, because I think so many people in our generation do have very similar anxieties like that one. And I think that a lot of us have been, and this is going to sound more serious than it is, so forgive me, but I think a lot of us have been traumatized by bad experiences doing basic things like that. Like, how many times have you called to do something very simple on the phone and the person on the other end talked to you like you were a fucking idiot? Because like that's happened to me several times. Like they'll ask you something as if you were supposed to know to answer that right off the bat, and it's just like, No, dude, like there's not an instruction manual for every human interaction on Earth, okay? So like you need to understand that like that's not the issue. We've even got people talking about it in chat. So Kate Danger, if you don't know Kate Danger, that's Akira's loved one. And
my loved one. Yeah. Yes, she's just my old grandma.
Yeah. That's Anyway, Kate Danger says, I had to call the plumber for William this week to handle out plumbing.
She has a weird way of speaking. Y'all have to ignore that sometimes. And to be fair, I've been on nights. I'll continue to be on nights. I would have done it eventually if I absolutely had to. I just don't like talking to people on the phone.
I mean, it's a thing. It's not just you.
You know, and it's funny about that because, and I don't want to divert too much, but there are some things I'm the opposite for. Like if I'm having a conversation with a friend, I would much rather it be a verbal conversation than a text one, because Chase and I have plenty to fight over. It doesn't need to be over a misunderstanding. like we used to constantly get into fights over text just because we misinterpreted the tone of each other's speech.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, hell, that happened with me and William literally like yesterday. Like when you posted that GIF about acting like impatient because people wouldn't vote, and I was just like, hey, the DM's already voted. He's not playing. We can't play. And he took that as me throwing him under the bus because I was with him when he voted because I wasn't going to be in town this weekend, and then I wound up having to stay because I was worried about my cat. So you can't.
That's also not how I took that GIF.
And speaking of tone,
I took that GIF as being like, well, fuck it, guys. I guess we're not going to get this together.
That's exactly how I meant the GIF. I didn't mean it as complaining.
I have had that problem, and I had to communicate this to Colin and Higgy that I hate it when people just put GIFs, because unless you know what they're saying exactly, it can cause a lot of problems because it's not a concise method of communication. And I get sometimes heated over people who just communicate with GIFs.
I have sort of turned into a Facebook dad in that regard, that there are a lot of times when I know if I type it out in words, I'm going to sound like I'm mad, because I am. And I know I shouldn't express anger over something so small. So I'll just be like, well, what's Jim Carrey said that can like really express how I feel right now or something.
Right. But yeah, for me, a combination of the two would be effective. That way you both get that out, and you can maybe do a watered down version that doesn't sound angry. I don't fucking know. But yeah, concerning that, I had already known that Chase was going to be out of town, and I want to say he had said it previously that the 2 weeks that he was going to be at before his spring break and then after his spring break, he had not planned on being in town. So,
yeah. But I mean, that's just how it works out. Like you can't, like we said, you can't infer tone through text whatsoever. So GIFs are even worse. So.
Well, they are and they aren't, because the GIF actually has a tone behind it if you know the source material.
That's fair, yeah.
But that's the thing, yeah. Like sometimes that requires a lot of context, and sometimes you're trying to say something without context, because I think that we do a lot of little passive aggressive tricks to protect ourselves sometimes. Because we're like, I really have to say this or I'm going to go mad from not expressing myself, but I don't want anybody to be pissed off at me in response, so I'm just going to make it funny.
Hey, that's a valid way to go about it, though, sometimes.
I'm going to be, because
it depends on the situation, but yeah, definitely it can be.
Well, like something, for example, I've learned about communicating with you, Chase, is that like, I need to make it as undetailed as possible, because with the way I communicate in text, the more detailed it sounds, the more it sounds like I'm just getting super serious and butthurt about something, when in reality, it could be something extremely minor. So I'm just trying to like limit how many words I say so that it's just very quickly, how do you feel about this thing? And I just wait for a response very quickly. How do you feel about this thing? Because I remember Chase used to be like, God, why are you writing an essay about this? I'll just be like, because I write an essay for my DoorDash order. Like, what the fuck?
And Ian has actually mentioned before, and I actually share this with him, both of us are very grammatically correct, generally speaking, when we type. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's taken that we're being upset or prim or holier than thou, and really it's just, it upsets me when it's not most of the time.
A period on a statement in casual text has way more connotation than it should.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just trying to make a casual statement that's not excited or a question, you've got to leave that period off.
And I just hate run-on sentences, man.
or what I hate is the 3 dots at the end of something.
Oh, ellipses.
Oh, people misuse ellipses all the time because they don't realize it connotes like some weird shit.
It makes it sound like they trail off, like they're waiting for something to come back from what they said. Because my cousin's really bad to do that, and I hate it. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, like whenever Kay does it, it generally means something's the matter.
Yeah, see, that's how I take it too.
I had to, whenever I taught, that was part of what I would do. I didn't have an email etiquette lesson I would teach, but whenever a student would email me, I would always one-on-one with them verbally and just be like, okay, so here's everything you did wrong in this email that could piss a teacher off. Because you need to understand is that when you're reaching out to me trying to get a favor from me and you get something that I read out loud as, why didn't you put my grade in? Like, you're not going to get what you want.
Yeah. So. Oh, hell, I remember the very first time I ever had to like mass email to school when me and Jesse still worked at the same one. And later that day, he came to my office and he was just like, holy crap, you can write. I was like, gee, thanks. I know I can write professionally when I have to.
I had forgotten about that. I thought the worst, like, accidental insult I had given you was here recently where I was just like, Chase can read?
Yeah. Hey, that's fair. And I think those are funny, just to make things clear. I do think those are funny. I just hate the act of reading. It was so boring to me. And I still wouldn't sit down and read a book. Like, audiobooks are a godsend for me because I just listen to them while I drive.
For more context, all of our lives, Chase has explained, like, and I don't mean this in a homophobic sense, you just got to have grown up in the 2000s. Chase would just be like, reading's gay. Reading's gay. And I'd just be like, as I grew older and become a teacher and started to look at things through that lens, I was just like, Chase must be like illiterate or like dyslexic or something because he really hates it. Like, he really hates it. And so I had just assumed that you like couldn't paint mind pictures or something. And then when we helped you discover audiobooks and you started getting more into reading than even I was at the time, I was like, oh, Chase, this is more of like an attention span thing because I can completely relate.
It bores me to death to stare at words on paper because I basically do that shit all day long at work with emails. So like I don't enjoy holding a book and sitting to read it. Like I almost feel like I'm wasting my time. Whereas audiobooks, I have to drive to work anyway, so fuck it. Like I can listen to it on the way. But the only way I know to describe it to you is I didn't like school growing up. Like I know some people like school, whatever. I hated school. And the act of reading to me was like someone going home and just doing math, and no one fucking does that.
Yeah, so like exactly.
I didn't want to go home and read.
Nobody goes home and does math for fun, especially not me.
Yeah, I hate math. I hated math more than anything. But it doesn't help that I had terrible teachers for math.
Hey, mine weren't great. That might be why I like doing it, because that's how I had to learn.
Yeah, maybe. Shit, I was so bad at math. I still am. Like, I'm not good at math. I really I fucking love
and
math.
I think that was a big reason why I was so confused growing up with you and trying to relate with you better, because I think typically when you hate math, you inversely enjoy English. And that's something that I've noticed a lot. And when you were like, math and English are both gay, I was just like, what does he like? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like school at all.
Yeah.
Hang on, Jesse. So you're saying me and Chase are opposite freaks? He hates math and English, and I love math and English.
It would also explain, like, you know, Chase and I have often talked about how we're like each other's evil twins. And then there's you, who is like aligned with us in these interests, but opposite of us in terms of how a human being operates.
I'm opposite a lot of people because I like history and science both also. I actually like school.
See, I could get into history now. I think I would enjoy history now because I enjoyed history in college when I had to take a little bit of it. That was actually fun.
Yeah,
history. I legitimately like school. Like if I could be a paid student, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
The only time I liked English is when I had a fucking hot single mother as the teacher, but that's besides the point.
That's a whole different kind of podcast.
Also, just so you're all aware, there will come a time when there was a knock at my door for the delivery of hot za, and I will return as quickly as I can when that moment comes.
That's fine. The beginning of that sounded very spooky, though. There will come a time when there's a knock at my door, and I'll have to open it, and you'll never hear from me again.
And then you wake up with a heart on.
I'm thoroughly enjoying the direction the conversation has taken us, but I have a question for you, Chase. Okay. What is the actual subject of today's podcast?
Oh God, we haven't even gotten to it yet.
That's what I like to do. That's why I kind of wanted to just talk for a little while and just see where it
of
went.
course.
And now that we've done a little bit of chatting, I feel like it is time. But I do want to talk about Elden Ring for a little while now. We ain't got to go like super crazy in depth. We can do that maybe perhaps some other time once we've all beaten it.
Right.
But right now I just want to kind of discuss how that game has changed your view on video games, because a lot of people have, when the reviews were first coming out and all the reviewers were like, this is going to change things, I was like, whatever. Like they're probably just fucking, tooting the horn of FromSoft, whatever. Like, I love their games, but it's just going to be another Souls game, and that was not the case. So, Jesse, do you want to take lead and how has it changed for you?
I would love to take lead, and then I'll just say my piece, and then you guys can jump in on this. I have been bitching and moaning since we got out of high school, basically, about the slow decline of video games. I love how you didn't need the second half of that sentence.
I was wondering if you'd catch it.
I have been bitching and moaning. He has. Because, mostly the people who I would interact with would be kids, because I went to college to become a teacher, became a teacher, and so the people that I was talking to about video games, for the most part, was children, and they would just disagree at every turn. And I was just like, maybe it's because your standards have been set by today's games, but yesterday's games had so much more content, like vastly more content. And it just feels like year after year, game developers and publishers are trying to see how much less they can get away with. And I understand that to a degree now, because I've realized that gaming technology has vastly outpaced how quickly a team can make a game. Because the easiest way to look at that is the Final Fantasy VII remake. Final Fantasy VII, the original, looked like ass, but it looked like ass kind of on purpose, because it's like, okay, we're going to have the cutscenes are going to have these models, and then the battles are going to have these models, and then the overworld travel are going to have these models. And those creative constraints allowed them to build this enormous world, because you're using your imagination for the parts where you're going around in the world, and then we flash forward to, we've got such excellent graphics, and we're going to try to turn that into a modern video game. Okay, so you're telling me we've got to make every scene of the game at the same level of fidelity? Yeah, that's going to take a lot longer. So I understand now why that game was split up into pieces. It's not always something that can be helped. But there have been a lot of games in my lifetime that have been chopped up into pieces and sold individually instead of just being sold as a whole. An excellent example of that is Assassin's Creed 2, which, the middle of the plot was removed and sold as DLC just because. And so I have slowly watched everybody's standards for video games drop. And I've just had to be okay with that, because there's been nothing I could do as an individual to change the industry. My voice isn't loud enough. And a lot of these games are still fun. They're just not really up to my standards. So for Elden Ring to come out and be such a huge game with such an incredible level of detail, with such a diverse atmosphere, and also play really fucking well. I just kind of, you know, the meme where like it's like that Mass Effect like neurons activated meme with like the lasers coming out of the eyes. Like that's kind of how I felt. I felt like the gamer inside me with his standards for gaming woke back up and said, "This is what can be done." And I was just like, all right, I'm back to being a whiny bitch, y'all, because from now on, if you can't deliver me at least an Elden Ring, why are you even trying?
Yeah, like it's such a new like golden standard, and people are gonna have, or developers are gonna have a hard time competing now. Like, and I'm sure certain games will still sell like, you know, fucking insane. Like I know I harp on Breath of the Wild all the time, but let's just say Breath of the Wild 2 comes out and for the most part is completely an asset flip and it sucks. It's still going to sell bazillion copies because it's Zelda. So some will still get away with it, but I hope most will adapt to it. And I'm hoping Breath of the Wild got delayed for that very reason. I hope they looked at Elden Ring and went, well, oh fuck, we've got to do something. Like we really got to kick it up here.
I mean, I will say that the last game I really looked at as this thing is pretty much whole and complete already was I don't remember the order that these came out in. I can only remember the order I bought them, so you know, y'all can kind of police that as you will. Horizon seemed like a very good release. Like, I don't feel like they cut us short on the story. It was pretty fucking massive. It looked good. The zones were fairly diverse. I haven't.
Chase, you'll have to comment on that because I haven't played Horizon.
No, I agree with him. Yeah. Now that game did eventually get an expansion, but it was people. I don't think a lot of people today understand the difference between an expansion and DLC because there's a big damn difference. Because back in my boomer day, you know, we only had expansions. Like when they came out, they were big, and that's just what they were called. And then fucking Skyrim, or was it Skyrim or Oblivion? Whatever one came along was just like, look, horse armor. So, and that started the whole fucking, we can sell whatever the hell we want shit. So,
and I think that's the thing is if you're a younger gamer and you ever wonder why are older gamers such crotchety fucks about this, it's because your dollar went farther than.
It's we're used to getting the whole Big Mac. Not just the buns, and then buy the meat separate and the cheese separate.
Not just the pickles, because that's how it feels. Yeah.
And then the other example I had, which is a little different in the way they went about it, but it worked very well because it was all fucking free. It was Monster Hunter World.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because
Monster Hunter World was
free
fucking phenomenal content. Because they gave you the whole story, and then they released more DLC, but it was free. And then they had Iceborne, which was a massive expansion, practically a second game.
I'd actually love to add on to this from the industry perspective, now that I actually work in the industry. This is something that I've learned that I think could lend to the conversation. So some of you have already heard of the term games as a service, which I think most regular consumers like us immediately recognized as a naughty word. Because games as a service can be synonymous with like free-to-play games and with like mobile games. Games as a service are typically games that you don't pay for when you buy them, but you do pay in microtransactions in some way. And the game is designed in such a way to encourage those microtransactions. I think most people recognize it to be an unethical business practice because the only reason those games survive is because of something called whales. And a whale is a person who has more money than sense. Somebody who will easily drop $1,000 on that game in a year.
They got all that blubber.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly how, you know, this Brave Souls game that me and William have played for years now works. I mean, if it weren't for whales, this game would be dead already. And
we sure as shit don't spend money on it.
Yeah, I have never spent a dime on this game, and I've played it for like 4 or 5 years now.
And really, we just play it now to see what new big titty anime bitch we can get.
Yeah.
But yeah, a good example of something that was great. All right, never mind. This is gonna be a little bit different though. But this is something that happened to me and Colin, who's excusingly in the chat in case y'all weren't already aware. But like we played the shit out of Lord of the Rings Online when it came out, and back when it was still a paid subscription, it was a much better game than when they went free with microtransactions. Almost everything about the game went downhill, in our opinion, as soon as they made that swap.
Well, that's the thing about games like that. If you start out as a paid model and you have to move to the microtransaction thing, you can almost expect shit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because there's a reason they had to do that. Like, they couldn't hold the fan base anymore, so they had to move to that model.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, WoW's already dead in my heart anyway, but I feel like they will eventually be there.
Yeah.
Likely.
Now, the reason I brought all that up in relevance to Monster Hunter World.
We're talking about Elden Ring. Oh, yeah.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
This is we're not going off topic too far. I just wanted to finish the point that I was trying to make, which was the term games as a service has shifted, and now there's a term that I think is less dirty, which is live service game. And a live service game is any game that the developers are continuing to add content to, which means games that we've been playing for years have already been live service games. For example, any MMO is a live service game. The difference here is that a lot of live service games now aren't subscription-based games. They're premium games that they keep adding new content to further incentivize the one-time sale of that game. Because I really think that a lot of times, whenever a game that you never expected to be ported to PC gets ported to PC, it's because they've recognized, oh, nobody's buying it anymore. We can make more money now. Right. And so this is just another way of monetizing after that point where nobody's really buying the game. And Monster Hunter World is an example of that. Like, you constantly get free updates, and I think it winds up being the cost of that production time because it's re-inspiring new one-time purchases. So yeah, as that relates to Elden Ring, I really expect Elden Ring to be, I think we already confirmed it's had some live service features, right? Because like day one, it had some free stuff. I don't know if we can expect it to continue to get free updates or if they'll be paid DLC. I'm in regardless. But I think we're starting to see more games.
I didn't know their day one had any kind of new stuff added to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Bug fixes and
that's what I was going to say. I wouldn't say that it was necessarily new content. It's just they had NPCs whose quest lines went nowhere, and they fixed it to where they went somewhere.
They just had things they had to fix, not necessarily giving us extra stuff.
Now they might give us like the arena or something,
maybe.
But who knows?
I could definitely see things like that being live service updates. Like, to me, any game where there's pre-existing stuff there that doesn't do anything but could, I could easily see that being a free update. But if it's like completely new content, I could see that being paid DLC. And that's typically how people like us look at it, because, you know, when DLC was first starting to become popular, and I know some of you were born after DLC was conceived, so you're just going to have to forgive me. But when it was first starting to be a thing, we were getting pissed off because we were used to expansion pack content. Like, we knew for a fact that we paid for one LUP of content, the devs made it, and then we bought it. And then the devs made more content, and we paid for that content because it came in a different physical box and it was a different physical CD. And then we started catching them selling us DLC that was already on the disc. Like, it was already developed before the game released, and we were paying to unlock it. And our brains hadn't begun to process the concept of digital ownership yet. And so we were like, that's horse shit. I already bought that disc. It's mine. and so, like, there's been a real coping phase for humanity, at least people my age, to just really figure out whether or not this shit's worth our time. And I think it will continue to be a weird psychology game that they have to play marketing wise of what should be free and what should not. Like, all right, so is the horse armor literally in the game already? Can they see it in the game files? Then yeah, maybe we shouldn't fucking charge them for that because they're just gonna mod it. Like,
I think it's funny when they do leave shit like that in the game files, as if someone's not going to tear it apart day one.
Yeah.
Because that's just a thing now between modders and people like speedrunners and shit, just wanting to know how the game's code straight up works, and then they find stuff like that.
A good example of that, to bring it back to Elden Ring, is whenever I made a Google sheet to try to plan out the order in which we're going to do our stream content so that we don't struggle trying to think of what to do next, or if Chase is unavailable, what we can do instead of like main storyline bosses. And while we were doing that, I went ahead and put down the DLC that I think is going to exist. And so Ian was like, what's this Maelstrom thing? What are you talking about? And I showed him the Reddit thread of how people who have hacked Elden Ring have found that there's just a big chunk of the world missing in the middle. And I think that's because that is going to be DLC, and they knew if they left it in, that people would just go hunting through it by hacking the game. And so the DLC will physically add that part of the world back, but for now it's a hole in the ocean. Like, there's just nothing there.
Yeah, and that makes sense that they would just straight up hide it too, because the speedrunner I follow the most for Soul stuff is called Distortion 2, and a lot of times when they're trying to route a game, they will fire up Cheat Engine, allows them to walk on air and they can go anywhere.
Yeah.
And they use that to try and figure out what all they can stand on and what they can't stand on, and then they try to get there by normal means, like jumping or some fuckery to get there without actually cheating. But anyway, my point is they could have used that exact program to just walk out there. So
yeah. So moments ago we were talking about how this has changed our standards, and I think even relevant to that, right? Like we know that whatever DLC content is sold to us isn't going to be something that was already developed before the game began. You know, it's going to be something that was created as a part of a much longer plan and improved upon over time. And I think that's because, you know, whenever we download extra content for a game, we do kind of expect that it's being created with the reception of the game in mind, so that they can like improve upon things that we've disliked, you know, and that hasn't been the case in a long time. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
So whose turn is it now?
It don't matter. You can go if you want, if you got anything.
Well, mine'll be quicker because it hasn't really changed my standards at all. It pretty much was exactly what I was expecting it to be. So yeah, it didn't really, like I said, I probably would have sized it up to something like Monster Hunter World in terms of completeness and things like that, or Horizon, even though I haven't fucking finished it. And then, of course, in terms of difficulty and things, I would scale it to a Souls game, which, in my opinion, it falls short in that regard by and large.
Yeah, I think
it is the easiest, but with a few exceptions.
Yeah, it has its issues. Like I do like how big the world is, but I think it's too big for its own good sometimes, because you can tell towards the end of the game they just ran out of. I guess they ran out of time, even though they had the areas made, because like they just cranked the damage to 11 and left it.
Right.
Like it's like they tried to pad the game that way to make those areas take you longer, even though they shouldn't.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, because like even the hardest boss in it, Chase didn't go to sleep watching me fight this thing, wake up 9 hours later, and I still beating my head against that wall.
Hey, yeah.
Fucking Ludwig. Oh, man. But yeah, so my standards are pretty much the same. Obviously, there are going to be games come out that fuck my standards. I like this game anyway. Kingdom Hearts 3. Because that's a good example of I skirted my standards because I love the series. But objectively, Kingdom Hearts 3 is not a good game.
Yeah. See, I couldn't do that. And like Ian at one point was heavily defending 3. I think he might have come around now and be like, yeah, it's kind of bad. But you know, like I beat Kingdom Hearts 3 in like two or 3 days. I took off work the day it came out and I played it nonstop until I finished it. And I was just like, God damn, that sucked. Like that was rough. There's no the thing I loved about Kingdom Hearts is it was a crossover. And there's like no fucking crossover in Kingdom Hearts 3. There's no Square characters, and the few that are there are like basically non-existent. You don't even have to talk to them or ever even see them. Like it's pathetic as far as a crossover goes. So like I can't excuse it just because I like Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. Which, I mean, for me, Kingdom Hearts isn't necessarily, I don't know, it's in a weird spot. Like, I feel like that was the original concept, and then it kind of has slowly evolved past it. I mean, Birth by Sleep didn't have any necessarily Final Fantasy aspects of it, except for Zack.
Yeah,
That was it. That was all you got. But you love Birth by Sleep.
It's mostly because of the, what's it called? The deck command or whatever the fuck.
The command deck.
Command deck, yeah.
You just had it backwards. But yeah, I mean, I think they've kind of been moving away from having as much Final Fantasy for a while. I was hoping that 3 would bring it back, personally, like you said. But I'm also kind of excited to see them kind of doing their own, pretty much their own unique story. Because honestly, even in a lot of the Disney stuff, there was a lot less Disney and more unique characters in it. But that's another talk for another time. I could go on a long tangent about Kingdom Hearts.
To bring it back, though, I think there is a big problem that I have always complained about with Kingdom Hearts and with Final Fantasy that people are only just now starting to talk about on the grand scale because of Elden Ring, and that's whenever storyline elements are lost in translation. Because I think that Kingdom Hearts' story is hot garbage because it's so eccentric and so convoluted. And like whenever I talk to people about it, they're like, it's really not that hard to understand. This person is this person because back whenever they got together, he got split whenever he became darkness and then gave birth to this person. And anyway, this is a story about Mickey Mouse and Cloud Strife. I think that's making a lot of it storytelling excuses that if you know anything about storytelling, you shouldn't have to make. And then likewise, in Elden Ring, this is a project where the narrative was essentially commissioned from a world-renowned author, translated into Japanese, translated back into English, and now the endings are even more confusing than they would have been if it had just been a normal Souls game. Because even the other Souls games, like it's a lot of old English nonsense that doesn't actually mean anything. Like the Souls games are very poetic in the way that they deliver their lore, but it also seems like they lack a lot of the actual detail to understand what's going on. Like it's gotten me very interested in new genres of literature, I will give you that, but I don't know that it's always executed well. Trying to criticize the narrative of a Souls game, to me, is like trying to criticize an abstract painting when all you've ever criticized before has been landscapes. Like, I don't know if I don't have the vocabulary to do it, or if the game's bad. Like, I just have no way of knowing.
Yeah, like, I think it's funny, these other devs acting a fool on Twitter, like complaining about the lore of Elden Ring as if it's any different than any Souls game's ever been.
Right.
Because they essentially throw you into this world and they're like, all right, go kill. and that's it. And if you don't read weapon text or spells,
every item nearly.
Yeah, if you don't take the time to look for it, you're never gonna get it. And that's fine for some people and not for others. Because like you could go through Elden Ring all the way up to the capital city and not know what the fuck you're doing still if you haven't read anything or paid any attention, because the cutscenes don't tell you much. Like the cutscenes are dude walking into an arena to stomp your dick. So
I will say, out of all of the Souls games I've played, Elden Ring actually gives the most exposition. Because as far as I can tell, the item lore isn't as much of a thing. I don't really see item lore.
But
like, as far as I can tell.
Also not Sparth, so.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I've learned much more just from talking to NPCs than I ever have before. Because I think in other Souls games, the NPC dialogue is just too cryptic. Whereas these individuals really seem like relatively ordinary people in an extraordinary circumstance. So, like, I can piece together from their confusion and explanation of what they've figured out so far what's actually happening. Right. Chase and I had a disagreement about a conversation in the game because of that. Because, like, this woman's explaining what happened to her comrades. They got grafted to the spider. At the beginning of the game, you're fighting a spider made out of man arms. It clicks. It clicked a little bit better than other moments in other Souls games, in my opinion. But at the same time, we had a misunderstanding about what that conversation was about at first. Still, it was farther than I'd ever gotten in terms of just inferring on my own what the fuck is going on. Because otherwise, I think this is one of those stories where it's like, well, wait, why are we doing this? Oh, we're doing this to get the Elden Ring. Oh, okay, cool. What's the Elden Ring? It's the Elden Ring.
Find out.
Like,
that's all they can do.
And then it's just like, so what, are we going to hammer it back together? Well, it's not a physical ring, stupid. There's so much of that, and it's just like.
Yeah, and you could even still argue that that's not good storytelling about Godric because you don't ever have to see him if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Quite true.
And he's a shard bearer. Like you don't ever have to fight him if you don't want to.
No, there's a lot of shard bearers you don't have to fight. Mm-hmm. Also, just to hit back on this, because Shaq asked if it was easy because it's easier or easy because we've been playing Dark Souls for over 10 years. I've only been playing Dark Souls like 5, and I still say it's easy because going back and playing other Souls games, they're still harder in my opinion.
I agree with William on this because I think they toned it down ever so slightly enough that it would appeal to 12 million people that's bought it.
I think there's a piece of the puzzle we're missing though, and I recognize this whenever Chase was asking which ones we thought were the hardest, and I said I think Dark Souls 1 is the hardest, and he was like, that's weird because I think it's the easiest, and I think I know why. There's a mechanic that we're not considering because Chase is considering the mechanics of combat, right? And the mechanic I'm talking about is rage, like human rage, because since Dark Souls 1 lacks so many quality of life features that allow me to take a break and calm down while still playing the game, I don't get as enraged. Like in the other games, if you get stuck on an area, you don't get to continue playing the game because that's the way you have to go. Like that's what you have to do. Like these aren't necessarily entirely linear games, but they're not open world either. They're way more like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, you are gonna get to little chokehold points where you've got to do this one thing, and that's it. You've got to do it to move on. And so many of those games are like that, to where it's just like, I know that if I keep trying to fight this boss, then I'm going to sell all my clothes and join a circus because I can feel my brain disintegrating. And in Elden Ring, if I start to feel like that, I leave. I just get on my horse, or I magically teleport to an entirely opposite part of the world and I do something else. And in so many of the other games, you can't do that.
Well, technically in Dark Souls 1, you can do that up to a point. But then after that, there is a certain way you have to go. And
technically do that in 3 also.
Yeah, the way I get around that, like I go into these games knowing that. Like I go into it, I'm just like, okay, this game is soul-crushingly hard. I'm going to die, and I just don't get mad about it when I die. Now that's not to say
remember that button I was talking about earlier. You're just like, I just don't get mad.
Use your action, man.
Well, that's what I was getting to. Now, that's not to say that bosses don't get me tilted, because like there's usually 1 or 2 per game that'll really just get me like, oh man, fuck this thing. I hate this motherfucker. But like at the same time, I'm not like throwing my controller or anything, you know?
Yeah, you're not Tanner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, what makes DS1 seem the hardest is I 100% feel like you can't dodge it in a 360-degree sphere. I'm almost certain you can just dodge in 8 directions, and it fucks with my brain.
I don't know that I observed that, but you might be right.
I feel like the dodging is just a lot more clunky. Which, I mean, it's older. It should be clunkier, and I don't know.
I think that Dark Souls appeared easier to me because I played Bloodborne first.
Yeah,
and
I did too.
To me, Bloodborne is the hardest one, if only for the fact that when you lose your echoes, a werewolf's going to pick them up and put them in his back pocket, and you've got to rob that werewolf. And that's not always easy when he's the one that killed you the first time.
Exactly.
I do feel like it makes you... It forces you to get better at fighting an enemy.
I do too. I completely agree about that.
So I think it's better at teaching you to overcome its difficulties.
Yeah.
And for me, like, this is another just thing of, well, Dark Souls was also DS1. Like, the way a lot of the things work changed drastically as they went along, and like the way the flasks work. Estus worked way different in Dark Souls 1. The way it leveled up by zones and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't know that, you just thought it was business as usual. Well, it's not exactly business as usual, but I just think I just have difficulty going back to the way it aged, I guess.
Yeah, and Bloodborne was also so much faster paced combat.
And that just works so much better for me.
Yeah, like that. There is no shielding in that game. You either dodge or you get punched in the mouth. Like like that's your options. And after going through all of that and then moving to Dark Souls, I was like, God, this game is slow. Like, holy fuck! But it's so much easier.
Yeah. See, I'm not as patient as you, I think. especially with combat, because that happens in Elden Ring sometimes when I've complained about it. It's this dude winds up, and I'm like, all right, any second now, and I end up dodging too soon because I'm like, he's about to swing this on me. I'm going to end up waiting for it still. And in Bloodborne, that almost never happens. Yeah. You can't wait for them to swing. You got to be dodging before they swing.
Well, the comment I seen that makes the most sense to me for Elden Ring's wind-up attacks is they were just like, some dev took a look at what's his name, the guy that rides the bird, something King,
Nameless King.
Oh, the Nameless King. Yeah.
People were. He was just like, I feel like a dev looked at Nameless King and was just like, yeah, let's just put his moveset on everything.
Yeah,
because he's one of the few in that game that have really long wind-up attacks that are difficult to gauge. And it does feel like they just stuck that on fucking everything in Elden Ring.
The video that I watched that I feel like explained it for me said that the NPC combat AI feels like it was designed specifically to counter the way people have learned to play Souls games.
Yeah,
because
I've seen that. I agree.
Like, and it makes a lot of sense with these characters in a way that I really respect. Because let's just look at Margit, for example, and this is, if I can find the video, I will make sure to mention it in the edit. But in the case of Margit, we've all learned that whenever a big attack is winding up, a big sweeping attack, to roll in so that we can get our attacks in. And so we roll in, and just like we're in some slow-mo fucking JoJo anime, out he pulls his little light dagger that he's got specifically for when you do that. And it's just like, we learned how to play, and so they learned how to play us.
I don't know. I still always dodged into Margit. It's just if you know he has that dagger attack, I dodge again and end up behind him. So,
well, something else too is this is the first one that I've ever really felt like the directions of your attack matter a lot. Because for example, there for a while I was like, can I just, like, I am currently wielding a sword in my right and a prayer nugget in my left. I forgot what they're called, but
sacred seal.
A sacred seal in my left. Thank you.
I'm calling them prayer nuggets from now on.
So
look at you, Jesse. You named something, and I approved of it.
Oh boy. So. And I will two-hand my sword when I need to and switch back out whenever I want to cast. But I was like, what if I just wielded my sword in my left hand? Because every motherfucking enemy that has a shield has their shield in their left hand. So if I'm approaching them and I have my sword on the side that they have unguarded by default, maybe I'll hit them more. But I decided not to do that, because if you do that, then you can't use the weapon art. Your weapon art only applies to whatever's in your right hand. So bummer.
That's an interesting tactic, though.
I mean, it was working for a while, but it's not really fun because I don't get to use a pretty big component of the game. So
my tactic on that is my swords are bigger than any of their shields, so they can't really block it.
Eventually, I just started using unblockable attacks.
Yeah.
That's
why I love the upward cut so much, because I accidentally used it exactly right in one of the streamed Margit boss fights, and Mayo was just like, yes, Jesse's learning, and I was like, I didn't do that on purpose. What did I do? and I found out that upward strike weapon art is so much more than just an attack. It's a dodge. Because it's kind of hard to crouch as a dodge in this game. It's entirely possible, but your crouch is by default mapped to clicking the stick in. And I've never really felt like I can click the stick in a really, like, clutch way. Like, I actually wind up accidentally crouching in a lot of fights, and it pisses me off. But if I know that part of what the enemy does is this either mid to upper level attack, that I can come in and do my upward slice, and as that's going over my head, I'm winding up to split them right up the dick. And it that has served me so well that it's like an early game weapon art that I've refused to replace. Like, I even found that Wild Strikes is incredibly OP on early enemies, and I just don't use it. Like, I use it if I ever get really pissed off, and sometimes it's not even that much of a help.
Yeah.
Like, a good example of that is some of the weapon arts in DS3. I actually recorded one and put it on Facebook, of all places, because we called it hitbox porn. There's a few of them that they act like a dodge because it adjusts your hitbox, and yeah, that stamp is one of them.
I think hitboxes in these games have gotten almost perfect. Like
they've gotten a lot better.
They're so tight now. Like you can get some insane dodges, like shit, like completely accidental shit, like Jesse was talking about. But
well, and I was getting praised yesterday on the way I was blind dodging the tremendous attacks from. Is his name Radon, the one we killed yesterday?
Yeah.
Radon.
Okay. And I really think it's just because I have never had the timing of these guys. Like, these guys have always been able to do those dodges. And I've never been able to just frame perfect time it because I have no rhythm, I guess. I don't know what it is. But if the window is based on my body instead of based on an arbitrary imaginary force field around me, then I have at least enough wiggle room to compensate for my lack of timing, and all of a sudden I'm dodging with the best of them. And I don't think it's because they made dodging easier. I think it's because they made dodging more accurate. So I can get away with being just a little bit stupid with my fingers now because my brain's smart.
Do you remember who it was that complimented you on it?
Was it you?
It was me.
Thank you for that compliment.
It was me. It was me, Jesse. Chase, your turn.
Unless you want to close this one out.
Nah, I'm trying to
going at it for 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think of something that hasn't really been said about the way it's changed, the way I look at things. Like I did say, I think it's almost a little too ambitious for how big the world is, even though I do definitely appreciate it being there rather than cut and sold to me later.
I mean, it was also in development for a long ass time.
I don't know how many people knew this, because I didn't until I seen it randomly in like an article. But it's been in development for longer. Yeah, it was in development for longer than Sekiro. Like Sekiro came out in between.
Oh yeah.
So that's fascinating to me. But one last thing I want to talk about real quick, and then we can close it out.
That was a real good game.
Is I want to talk about different people's play styles, because I feel like me and William are the closest in similarity of how we like to play. Like,
it started with Bloodborne.
Yeah, we don't like. I don't necessarily mean like what weapon types you get. Like I'm talking about like I'll take Tanner for example, and if he ever hears this, sorry buddy, but he runs past like every enemy ever.
It makes my skin crawl.
And I don't see how he enjoys the game. Like the way certain people play blows my mind. Like I personally don't like to co-op everything first. Like I like to beat the game myself to know I did it on my own and then co-op it. Mm-hmm. I know not everybody enjoys that, and that's fine. But and then Tanner, the way he likes to play, I don't enjoy that. He likes to run by everything. And then like Ian, I don't know that he followed a guide for the game, but I know he followed a guide for his build, and that's fine. But I wouldn't do that because I like to make my own build. And I know Jesse really likes co-op, so
I just like co-op in all things. But I will admit, before we go where you're wanting to go with this, and again, this is back to that conversation of, is the game easier or are we better? This is the first time that I've felt like, damn, co-op is like robbing me of any challenge. But at the same time, there are some things in this game that just take so fucking long because the enemies are pretty thick, and so in a lot of the circumstances in which we play co-op, I'm just like, okay, this isn't terrible, because I died a couple of times last night and we had to start that zone over. But I do feel like it's the first time that I've been capable of actually beating the game on my own. And for that reason, I still feel like I have, like, once I beat it, I will still feel like I have beaten it on my own, because so much of it I did.
Mm-hmm. I don't like how, I understand why they did it, because they kind of had to help pad this enormous world. But I do hate how reused certain bosses are. Because, I mean, there's only so many times I can fight a fucking Omen Killer or some common enemy that I can fight just about anywhere. But, oh, no, this time there's two of them. Or, whatever. And they're just like, oh, that's a boss fight. And I'm just like, it's really not to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jack the Buckler's almost always had the best parry window. So I think people just being little babies about it.
Speaking of playstyles, like, there's so much to say about playstyles in terms of how a person plays a Souls game, but I have watched the strangest thing happen, in that it feels like the community as a whole has dramatically shifted which playstyles they approve of and which playstyles they shun. Because like what we're talking about in the chat right now, where some people will accuse you of using one thing and say that's cheesing. This comes back to arguments I used to have in Smash Brothers, where people will just be like, using that element of the game that is clearly there on purpose and not bugged in any way, that's cheating. Like, and it's always like the dumbest shit, like using summons is cheating, using co-op is cheating, when all of these things have things in place to make sure that they're balanced. And the thing that's the funniest to me is that it used to be that leveling your health was like not the honorable way to go, because you know, as we've said for years, the platinum rule is don't get hit.
That's
and
right.
even though there have been times when I've been told don't get hit, and I've been ready to hop in my car and hit somebody, I am a convert. If you're not actively trying to not get hit, you're playing the game wrong. And so to see these people openly criticizing you for not having enough health and like calling you a cuck for not having enough health, I'm just like, where did these alternate reality nerds come from? And why are they here criticizing our fandom and acting like they've been here for years? Because they haven't. I don't know where they came from.
See, my thing about it is, in every Souls game, I've always felt you're going to get probably two-shot by most bosses anyway.
Yeah,
Dumping a little extra vigor ain't gonna save your goddamn
don't waste your points. Yeah, like I went ahead and put one more point in last night because somebody in chat was like level vigor, and I was like, I didn't verbalize it, but I wanted to be like, I'm not doing this because you're telling me to do, because that's backseating. I really probably should right now. So
like, I stopped vigor at 40 on my main character just because my intelligence and stuff was already so high that it was negligible now. So I was like, I guess I'll get health now. and I stopped it at 40, and now I don't know what the fuck I'm going to put stuff in.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I got. I don't even know if mine ever hit 40, and I'm level 251 on my main account. So, but yeah, I literally leveled intelligence, then dex, then strength, then faith, little in arcane, then I made my way to vigor.
And if I do a new game plus or a brand new character or something like that, I will more than likely level arcane first this time. I kind of feel like I should have, because if any of you who play the game don't know this, arcane is your luck stat now. It increases your item discoverability, and the way that somebody told me, they were just like, it's simple. You get more items, you get stronger faster. Like, it's just done deal. Like, that's just all there is to it. And it's kind of like in most games, if there is any sort of perk that makes you earn experience faster or level faster, I'm always like, yeah, duh. Pick that first. Like, you have, duh. Like,
yeah. And I think, speaking on arcane, I feel like this is kind of the most busted it's kind of been in terms of item discovery. Like, I only put like 3 points into it, and I was getting stuff way faster than like Higgy and Tanner were when I was helping them do stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it was just my luck's just better than theirs. I don't know.
Well, going back to talking about like overpowered stuff and people getting shunned for using it and things. How do you guys feel about them nerfing a single player game?
It wouldn't be the first time we've seen it, but I do know that it's controversial. Because
I think it's dumb, and I think if they're gonna do shit like that, they should have already had an arena and make those changes there.
Yeah, strictly for PvP. I agree, because I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you're doing it by yourself, fuck off everybody else. You can do it however you want, but maybe just make those changes take effect if you're co-oping, peeing. But I don't know. The only ones that I think, it's not necessarily, I don't see it as cheating, like you didn't really beat the game. I see it as you're cheating yourself out of a fun experience by, I'm going to pick on this one because I see it's the one that gets talked about the most, is the Azure or Comet Azure, and just melting a boss in like 6 seconds. I mean, you're not really experiencing the fight at that point.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you didn't beat it. Obviously, his health is 0. You beat him, but it just, I would feel cheated of the experience that I paid for.
See, I completely agree, because like last night when we were playing, Ian was talking about, I can't remember what spell it was, but he's like, yeah, I just popped my physic thing, and then
it's Comet Azure. It's the Kamehameha.
No, it's not that one. It's a
really?
different one. He got it from one of the Estelle type enemies. It's like a meteorite or something.
Oh, meteorite, yeah.
But anyway, he said he just spams the shit out of that until they're dead, and he's just like, yeah, it just melts them in seconds. And I'm just like, how are you having fun?
He likes being overpowered. So it's also,
that's the thing.
I guess it also goes to different people enjoy games different ways.
Yeah.
This is related to the playstyle conversation, because sometimes breaking the game in that way is fun because it makes you feel like you found something secret. Even if it's meant to be in the game, like it's very satisfying to go from Dark Souls difficulty to discovering a way of doing things that's ridiculously helpful. And I think the only time that I would ever judge that is if you actively searched how to do that. Like if you stumbled across it, by all means, obviously. Like, yeah, you take those endorphins, you earned them. But you know, if you looked up how to do it and that's just how you play, I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
It's like somebody stumbling across Sword of Night and Flame when it was busted as broken before it was widely known, and they're like, hey, this shit's busted. I'm gonna keep using it. Because at that point, you might not know that it was the most busted thing in the goddamn game. You just know it was working real well for you. And I would be okay. I think it's fun seeing bosses melt in New Game Plus after I've experienced them.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the way they're supposed to be experienced, but honestly, that's really how it feels to me. So, I don't know.
Mayo says, there have been Reddit comments that players have felt cheated in Elden Ring because the feeling of being overpowered late game has been taken from them. And there's a half and half understandable reason for that. It does make me wonder, like, I know they don't want to put difficulty modes in this game, and I don't think they should. But in the instance of there being such an incredible change in the experience like this, I do kind of feel like that should be set up in such a way to where the game as it was before the patches should just be a difficulty setting. And then the game as it's being continued to patch as a live service game is a different one. I know we're still going to have our tryhards being like, you didn't really beat Elden Ring if you didn't play on pre-patch mode or something, but I don't listen to those motherfuckers anyway. So
right. Man, hell, how are they gonna know you didn't? They're gonna look at your save date file or your save files date. Hopefully it's not as bad as what I put on my disc that I got my ace in disc golf, because I put the wrong fucking month on it. Anyway, and yeah, that's true, Shaq. Not everyone does go for New Game Plus, but I still feel like they're cheating themselves of the experience doing it that way purposefully.
Yeah. One question. Go ahead.
I was just gonna agree with what you said, Jesse. Is I do feel like looking up a guide like specifically to be like, okay, what's the strongest I can be, and then going by that, I don't see how you have any, not necessarily fun, because I guess it is fun just destroying a game, but like I don't see how you have any pride in it, I guess, or be proud of it in any way.
There have been multiple times when I've wanted to look up what areas are their best for farming souls, and I've been like, no, that's not what you want to do. And I don't necessarily think it's even self-control. I mean, I've discovered as of late I don't have much of it. But I just think I actively don't want to cheese the game. There are moments when something pisses me off to the point that I'll give you an example. Like, some people will be like, oh, you didn't beat that, you cheesed it. I can point to a couple of different moments in famous fantasy fiction where the protagonist cheesed the fight. Because sometimes that's just the experience. Like, the first time I ran into one of those giant rune bears, fell backwards into a hole and just shot fireballs at him from inside the hole. That I felt like I was Frodo Baggins.
That was a stroke of good fortune is what that was.
Yeah, and it's just like, that's how that happened. I'm not going to apologize to you. I don't know you. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I feel like that's okay on New Game Plus. If you've already beat the game and you're like, all right, I want to just see how fucking broken I can be, and you make a new character and just go at it. I think a perfect example of that for me is Diablo 3. I've put an ass load of hours into Diablo 3, so I know how to make builds, I know how to do everything, but when a new season comes out, I just go straight to fucking Icy Veins, and I'm just like, all right, what do I want to play this season? Okay, this, all right, I'm building this.
Yeah. And that's just a big problem with games that have a meta. Like, I think because Elden Ring, even though it is a multiplayer game, it's also a single player game. So yes, there is a meta. There are the builds out there that are basically the only way you can possibly survive in PvP, but I may never fucking touch PvP, so I'm fine. Like,
I'll never willingly touch PvP. Somebody invades me, that's their funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand people who just love the PvP in it because it's always been so jank that it's almost not fun. So like, it's hard for me to get in the mindset of those people who's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna build this twink character, never level it and invade all day. I understand that's fun for them, but I don't know. The PvP is so weird that I couldn't.
And I have the flip side of that is I know it might be fun for me, but I am ruining somebody's day doing that, and I can't get that out of my head, and I just like I can't do it.
In my opinion, the only correct PvP meta in Elden Ring right now is what Rage told me he was doing earlier today in the Discord, which is to invade somebody's world, sneak up on them without them noticing, and then use your little pate stone to say, you're beautiful, and then leave.
Yeah. See, there's a thing you can do that you can get to quicker if you invade somebody a set number of times. I'm being vague on purpose because I don't want to spoil it for you.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know you know. But Jesse hasn't experienced it.
Right.
If he blows right past it, I might tell him eventually. But
anyway, that would be fair.
And so I did the 3 invasions, but there's also an item you get that lets you send yourself home. So literally, as soon as I got there, I went home, and that counted. So
well, that's handy to know.
Yeah, you don't actually have to kill anybody. You just have to invade, which is nice.
That's why I liked that arena in Dark Souls 3 so much, because every now and then I'd be like, well, let's go see if PvP has improved any, because usually it's so laggy, it just sucks. But that arena would place like 6 people in FFA, and then you just go at it. And that was kind of fun.
In Ariandel?
Yes, I think.
Is it the DLC one? Because you're not talking about like Fight Club right outside.
No. I'm talking about the one you have to like queue up for it. It takes you there.
Gotcha. I never did that.
The Fight Clubs were actually kind of fun though. I had fun doing that sometimes because every now and then I would I would be summoned as like a dark moon into one of those places.
Yeah.
And we would just sit there and take turns. And that was actually fun sometimes, but it's not something I would just sit down and do all the time.
Yeah, Fight Club's a little different because then you're in a spot where no outside force is going to come in. There's usually somebody moderating it to where it's going to be a one-on-one fight. And that's just different. That has a different feeling to it.
Yeah, because if you go into Fight Club and you attack the host, everyone's going to kill you.
Yeah. Unless you're a bad man or woman, you're going to get murked. Just like this hot Zaw. So
speaking of moderating, Jace, what's next?
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like we need to wind it down here before we get too into Elden Ring, so we can save this for another day when we can really go in depth about the game. Maybe get like another person here with us, like me, you, William, and Ian, or somebody, and just really hammer out what we thought about the game as a whole and everything.
And I would also be able to sit one out if the 3 of you wanted to have a more in-depth conversation with spoilers, for example. If you didn't want to wait on me, because I'm dating myself right now, but that's what we did for a couple of DC movies that have been out for years now.
Yeah, I'd rather just wait because I've put so many hours into this game now at this point, and 2 different save files at that I've got no problem waiting.
I don't know what's your total? Do you know offhand or have a guesstimate?
Probably close to 100.
I did hear you, but as soon as I said that, my mind's weird. Y'all, almost everybody here know that. I love the word guesstimate because it's not even an actual word. And I love words similar to that, where we just take 2 words, push them together.
Portmanteau.
Jesse, do you remember my favorite word?
Pussy?
Oh, man, what is his favorite word? No.
Tabernacle.
Tabernacle?
Hey, a fucking tabernacle, hey, dude.
Well, the reason I asked that is I thought you would remember that conversation the day I found out the word tabernacle. I was like, holy shit.
I don't.
It's been a long time.
I do remember your discovery of soy sauce, though.
What?
Yeah, you texted me, and you were like, bro, have you tried soy sauce? I was like, yeah. And he was like, I just put it on my Chinese food, and it tastes straight up like I just got it from a hibachi restaurant. And I was like,
damn, I don't remember that at all.
I was like, yeah, brother, we know about soy sauce. Soy sauce is not
Anyway,
what's so funny is soy sauce is the equivalent of salt in China. So it's just like, have you tried salt in your fry?
Dude, it's like hyper salt.
It's like Dale's.
I mean, yeah,
that's
very
really
similar.
What it is.
Very similar concepts.
Or Worcestershire sauce.
Watch your sister sauce.
I'll never watch my sister. Thank you. Anyway, So what's the next topic? We're only supposed to spend a little amount of time on this motherfucker.
I think that's what Chase was just saying. We should probably bring it to a close because we can't start another topic and end it before 9.
Yeah. I think we go ahead and wind it down here.
Never mind. It's 8:40.
Yeah, I don't know when the next one will be. I'll try and get back on the ball of planning these. But I've got lots of topics floating around in the head because it's been a year and I've had time to really be like, damn, I'd like to do a podcast on that, and then just never did. So we should have some shit coming up. There's plenty of Marvel stuff that's happened in the last year that we haven't
That's very accurate.
remotely talked about.
We could even have a podcast about a topic I never thought we'd have, which is books.
Bananas? Oh.
Yeah, books. Yeah, that would be a really good one. I actually still really want to do that show that I told you about where we
compare a book to the movie.
Yeah, I finish a book and then I tell you the differences since it's fresh on my mind that I can remember. Because I usually, when I'm reading a book, halfway through the book, I will go ahead and watch the movie again. And then I'll finish the book. That way they're both very fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, this was different up to here. And oh, that's different, blah, blah, blah. So
there can be fun conversations had about that.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Thank you.
Got some things to say about certain books, but yeah, that's for another time. Go ahead, Jesse.
No, it's all good. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We genuinely appreciate you for being here. I know that we have struggled to grow in the past, but I am so happy to see the number count on our streams ever so slowly creep upwards, because there was a time when we would only have 4 or 5 people watching us live at any given time, especially on a podcast. And we've joked in the past couple of years that the number now is 12 because it seems like it will never like go up past 12. But I am always so happy to see that 12 of you there, even if we're streaming something stupid. Like it means so much to me. And it's not really even insulting to me anymore, because like I've seen other streamers who are much more successful than us, and they'll only have like 20 or 30 people, depending on what the actual topic is. So, there are some people that you can't count on to come out if it's something that they're not interested in. And what so many Bro Op fans have told us is that we're interested in you. And so thank you for that.
God, that explains a lot.
Well, it really... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is it really reminds me of one day Kendrick was talking to me about Luke's stream. He was just like, man, he's doing real good. He's averaging like he had like 80 viewers the other night. And I was like, man, I really, really am glad for Luke. And I'm not trying to shit on his stream in any way. I barely even know Luke. So if you ever hear this, sorry, bud. But I was telling Kendrick, I was like, man, 80's not shit. Like I hate to say that because we're not even close to 80.
Yeah.
But 80 is nothing.
But that's the thing, is that like if you have like I think 12 I think that 12 is a pretty consistent number for us right now, because we have roughly 15 people on the mailing list, and that took me 2 years. Like I've had that mailing list link there for like 2 years, and I've been like, I want 99 people on the mailing list, and here after like nearly 2 years we have like 15, because that's how many people we have. Why?
Because Chase ain't sending out them Hobbit feet pics yet.
I'll tell you why I actually think is, if anyone's like remotely like me, I don't want to be on any mailing list for anything.
But I'll tell you right now, that's exactly why I chose to make it a mailing list, because I was like, I want to find out how many of our fans we can really count on.
Right.
And so it's no surprise to me that I got 15 people on the mailing list and that there's 12 people here. And as for that 80 number, the difference is that according to a lot of the people that I've listened to and read, you only need 100 true fans to make it your job. Like if you've got 100 true fans who are all willing to like pledge to you monthly and make sure your videos get their shares and views and comments, you can make it. The issue is that we haven't had a whole lot of assistance in terms of like the way our content is shared algorithmically. So as an update to what you can expect for the channel, we do fully plan on cheating the system here soon. That's exactly why I started calling it dickbait. We are still not doing clickbait. What we're doing is parody clickbait that is accurate. Like, you're gonna get what you asked for. But at the same time, there is no way for me to clickbait funny haha friends play video game with no gimmick. And there's no real way for me to clickbait funny haha friends improv and roleplay a story while playing video game. So instead, I'm gonna be like, the shocking true story of this bitch, and it's all about Milena actually being named Delilah, actually being named something else, and that picture's not even of Milena. It's fucking Riley Reid, and I photoshopped her eye.
Holy hell, it is, isn't it?
So if
Chase, she doesn't do guy on girl porn anymore.
Oh, I know. She got married.
Yeah. Oh, I know plenty of porn stars. Well, I don't know them, but I know of several porn stars who are married and still take the old dickin'.
Well, I know some of you are really waiting on your porn star update, but I was gonna finish what I was saying.
No.
No, she still does the occasional girl on girl shack, from what I understand. But she's actually kind of winding that out too. But right now she's outright refusing to do the boy girl.
Well, good for her.
Yeah, I mean,
to be completely honest, I've seen videos of her where she said she didn't think she'd ever find love. So I mean, that's actually really good for her.
I'm really happy for her. Like, I was watching the interview with, I can't remember who it is, Adam something, I think. Anyway, I was watching the interview, and yeah, she seems genuinely happy. So more power to her.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Adam Sandler.
Adam Savage.
I don't know who that is, but that sounds maybe like it could be it.
Oh my god. It's not Adam Savage.
He's one of the Mythbusters.
That sounds like right on the money. In other news, I heard me and my co was about to get back in the business, so that's cool.
This is now a porn star podcast.
Oh my god. In any case,
you never know what I bring to the table, man. My people.
The point that I wanted to make is that in Nexus Estate right now, there's not a bot for automatically assigning you your role, so I'm manually assigning you people their roles whenever I see that they've pledged to us. And there is content available to you, though most of it is in the Discord and not through these posts. But there is one post that is not available on the Discord yet, and that's this episode preview of everything that I've completed so far of the upcoming Elden Ring episode. So if you're interested in seeing a preview of how much we've gotten done and what direction this is going in, that's where you can find it, by pledging at $3.50 or higher. You got that. And we no longer have a $1 tier. We did have a lot of $1 Patreon pledges, and if you still can only commit $1 to us, we still appreciate that, and we'll still accept it on Patreon, but that's not over here. So please consider supporting us financially. We really appreciate you. And that's all I've got to say. Anybody else?
And I'll give you a quick spoiler about which direction it's going. It's going northwest. Northwest. Chase, back to you.
Be sure to support Riley Reid. She no longer does guy on girl.
You can find Riley Reid's Patreon.
Now, having said that, she might do OnlyFans with her dude. That's possible.
I don't care who the dude is. That's fine. Cappy says, if anybody's going to be on Minecraft, I'd be down after this. So keep that in mind, everybody. Oh, there is a voice chat for you guys now.
I could do a whole podcast about how much I dislike Minecraft.
There is a Minecraft voice chat option in the sub basement, so keep that in mind if you need it. Oh man, please let me know if anything fucks up, like if the voice chat privileges are fucked up, as they often are. But yeah.
That would be unfortunate. Minecraft just seems to fuck up on y'all a lot.
I mean, it's normally our fault.
Yeah, I actually need to make sure the bill's paid again, because they keep emailing me even though I have it set up to auto do.
Is Huffy in it?
No. He might have played like once, but I don't think he's definitely not like active.
When you go, get away from my pizza. Get away from my pizza. But y'all just waiting on the day I have a camera so y'all can see my dogs. I know what you want. I know what you want.
I want all of us to have a camera. I really do. I want Chase to start face camming, but I think, Chase, you don't want a face cam, really? Like, you thought about maybe doing the VTuber thing, but...
Yeah, that's just too expensive, though.
Well, then, do you think you would face cam, or are you still not going to do that?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll just determine. I don't know.
If I get a face cam...
Listen carefully when Chase explains a plan, because it's a lot of words for nah.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I don't know what to say other than you'll have to wait and see, because I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I gotta tell you, when I do get face cam, You'll find out which of my animals has the stinkiest farts. You'll see my face when that happens. Spoiler alert, it's the cat.
It's not due until April 5th, so if the server goes down in 2 days, you'll know that it didn't go through.
I don't know why the cat has such stinky farts. They just tinky. Anyway,
all right,
that's all the pertinent information I have.
I'm gonna cut it now.
Okay.
Thanks again, everybody.
Read.
We'll watch it together.